Hey everybody. So I want to go over what I think is probably the best way to give an online assessment, an online exam, given the situation that we're in. And we're going to do this using just Google services. So we're going to use Google Meet and we're going to use Google Forms. All right, I'm going to switch back over here. So firstly, I'm assuming that you already know how to use Forms, at least to some extent, and that you already know how to use Google Meet, okay? So there's a couple of things here on Google Forms that you're going to want to do. Open up the settings. You'll want to collect email addresses and response receipts. I would do always. Limit to one response, probably. You probably don't want them to be able to edit or see the summary charts. You need to come over here to quizzes and make it a quiz. And I would say don't release the grade immediately because you might want to check, and that way if you have an error, you can fix it. And I'm going to uncheck these ones, but leave in point values. Leaving in point values so that the students know the value of their quizzes, of the individual questions. But take out the other ones because you don't want it helps to alleviate some cheating. Let's see, you can do show progress bar. To help with cheating, you can do shuffle question order if you like, if you think that makes sense. However, if you've got questions that go in order, so perhaps questions about a reading that a student has done, you might not want to mix that up. But I'm going to here. I think that's everything. So I've made a couple of questions here, and I'm going to send it to my student account, and then I'm going to show you what I think is the best way to do this. Now, prior to doing this, you should probably make a video and make a list of requirements and expectations for the student and probably even for the parents. We teachers aren't going to be able to be there under these circumstances. So it's important that it's very clear what the expectations are from both perspectives, for the parents and for the students. So you should send some sort of video, probably not this one, but something like this one, to show students what they're going to have to do. And you should have them do either do this on a laptop or a desktop with a webcam, where they can open up two separate windows. Or better yet, what I would recommend is you have them do it where they're using Google Meets on, say, a phone that's set up so that you can see them, and then they're doing Google Forms on, for instance, a tablet. And I'll show you what I mean in a minute. And that way, you can see them the entire time they're doing it. Now, as for cheating, there's always going to be a possibility of that. There's no way of getting around that, even when we're in class. If you have Chromebooks, there is an option here where you can check, let's see, for quizzes. I don't see it here, actually. But normally, there's an option here to check if a student is doing it on a Chromebook, that they can't open other tabs, so you might want to use that. However, there's always the concern that they can open up other tabs. So a couple of things. Make your questions unique. Make the quiz more difficult to cheat than it is to simply do the quiz or the exam or the test by making the questions unique. You can take the responses and put them into Turnitin afterwards and double check them that way. But again, there's always some concern that cheating might happen. Students can open up another tab on their tablet or whatever and can look up some answers. I would also not take questions and answers directly from Google, especially not like the first page, because you don't want students to copy paste into another tab and, sorry about that, check the questions and find the answers easily. Again, make unique questions and unique answers that they're not going to be able to find easily. And the way I'm going to set it up here with Meets, you'll be able to see what the student's doing to some extent. You won't see their tablet or their device most likely, but you'll see them. So it's not like someone can come in and look over their shoulder and see what they're doing. And the issue that always comes up is with the parents and the students is privacy, right? So some people will complain and say, well, my kid needs more privacy than that. You got to tell them, set up a space where they don't need privacy. Set up a public space in their house to use for exams. Make it maybe a bedroom that you don't use, or the kitchen. Take away anything that you don't want anyone else to see and do it there. But the camera part is going to really help alleviate a lot of possibility for cheating. So at any rate, let's get into how I think this ought to be done. So I've made a simple quiz. It's got a couple of questions. One thing I want to mention here, if you have students from multiple classes taking it, you may want to put in a question like this. What class are you in? Students select the class that they're in, because when you see the results as a teacher later, it becomes easier to sort the students. By default, I think Google Forms will list the students in their results by the time that they submitted it. And you might want to reorder that by class or by last name or whatever else. You may also want to put in a question asking them for their name, because the submission will have just their email address. So you might want to have a question that says, type your first name, another question that says, type your last name. And that way you can sort the form by those three things: class, first name, last name. You might want to add something like teacher or whatever. These aren't questions that would have a point value. So these are quizzes, and you can add answer keys, but you would want to make them required without a point value. They should only take a second to answer, so having it be required shouldn't be an issue with any time limit. But obviously you don't want someone to get points for writing their name. That's silly. You might want to make the others. In fact, I would suggest making the other questions not required, because then if the student runs up against your time limit, they can go down and hit submit without actually answering those things. If you make them all required, then they're going to have to put some answer in, and they might guess correctly. They might get more time to do the question than other students. I would make them not required for quizzes, for questions that have to do with the content. As for time limit, what you're going to do as a teacher, you're going to have the students join Meet, record it presumably, and then you're going to tell them, okay, look, you've got 20 minutes from the time that you get the exam. I'm going to send it out, and then maybe give them a 2 or 3 minute buffer just in case the email takes a minute to send. And after that 20 minutes, if you haven't submitted it, it's going to be worth 0. So you'll get a time of submission. So if 20 minutes happens to be, say, it's 12:06 here now, if you get a student who submits something at 12:27, give them a 0. Again, you might want to give them a couple minutes of buffer. So if it's a 20-minute quiz, you might want to say, okay, at 12:30, you have to have them submitted. If you haven't had them submitted, you're going to get a 0. And then at 12:31, give them a 0. So timing's always a concern. I don't know of a good way to do timing on Google Forms at the moment. I don't believe it's possible. And so you have to do that manually. You have to explain that to them, and you should explain that within the rules and regulations and in the video that you send to them. All right, so let's get into this. I'm going to send the quiz to my student self, which, let me double check what my student self email address is real quick here. Yeah, okay. adamodixstudent1@gmail, okay. Include form in email. I think it's going to send it anyways, so send. Let's double check here. Okay, so now I've got it here on my tablet in my student email. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch to me. So you've already sent the quiz, right? Now you want to focus on Meets. You'll see I'm going to hop into my student seat in just a moment here, and we'll do the quiz really quickly. So, all right, now you're looking at me. I'm the student, right? You sent me this quiz. I'm going to open it up. You can see me doing it on my tablet. You can't tell if I'm cheating in some other way, but you get a pretty good idea of what I'm doing and what's around me. And it's really sort of the best way to do it, right? So let's see. I'm just going to do this quickly here. Now, one of the things that I put in this quiz says upload a photo showing your handwritten work here. If you have to have the students handwrite something, you can have them upload a photo of it. Take a photo and upload it. Now, I wouldn't have them do an entire essay or paragraph that way, simply because handwriting is an issue and camera quality is an issue. But if you're a math teacher, a science teacher, you may have, for instance, work that you want the student to show. that goes along with the questions and forms. You can have them do that sort of thing. So at any rate, it'll just say, upload a photo showing your handwritten work here. So let's do add file. It says select files from device. So let's see. I'm gonna take a photo just with my regular camera on here. I think that got it. Let's see. Okay. Switch back, and again, you're going to want to explain this all in your requirements. Select files from device. And actually, when you click that, it allows you to just take the picture and then upload it automatically, so you don't have to select it from the device, so you can just take the photo that way. Okay? So, I got the photo there. Okay, it looks good. Upload. Yes, buddy, we hear you, Janet. All right, so now the quiz is done. I'm going to hit submit. And it shows that it's done. It says your response has been recorded, which you can customize that. So now as a student, I'm going to close out a meet. My quiz is done. I'm all set. If you've got like a speaking part or something like that, you may want to set up a separate meet for them. You may want to schedule a different time, whatever, if you need to speak face-to-face. But this way, you've got them doing the quiz. Presumably, you're recording it. You can see what they're doing. You can see if they're cheating and so on. And that should work fairly well. Most importantly, because you're sitting there actually watching them when they do it. So I'm going to close out a meet on here. So let's come back over here. I'm done with this meeting. Now I can see the responses. So I can look at the response summary. I can look at individual questions. I can look at an individual student. So let's see here. Got my email address, say what class I'm in. That answer is definitely correct. Nada. Here's the uploaded picture that I took. Ooh, okay. Gotta do that then. So there's your work. There's your math work or your science work or even a written paragraph if you gotta, but that's really not the best way of doing it. Frankly, if you want kids to write something, you probably ought to put a long answer question in here, like what this one was. I know I only put one word answer in there, but that's a long answer question. Students can type a paragraph. And like you might be saying to yourself, well, yeah, but we want to see their handwriting and so on. Okay, that's good, and that makes some sense. But and for younger kids, certainly. Younger kids are probably going to need help from their parents to deal with the technical aspect of it. And again, if you've got them on Meet, you're going to see the parent right there. You're going to see that they're not doing the work. You're going to see if they're helping the kid, and so on. But for older students, look, get them used to using a keyboard, okay? They're going to be going to university, presumably. They're going to be going into the workforce. They're not going to be able to use their thumbs, and they're going to have to use a keyboard quite often. Now, if you have them doing the exam on a tablet, all right, they're using their thumbs, but still, at least you don't have to worry about handwriting. Now, there is some concern because, Chrome may find their words that they've spelled incorrectly and allow them to fix it and so on. Okay. That's an issue, but hey, they're learning while they do that too. And I think you're still going to get enough material out of the content to be able to assess them fairly anyways. And for that matter, we're talking only for the long answer questions, for long writing or for work. Put the bulk of your material into multiple choice, checklist questions, short answer questions, so on, and you'll be a little safer. But again, if you need to, you can do this upload a photo showing your handwritten work. And then, again, the responses are recorded automatically. If you put in an answer key, which I did not do here, but if you put in an answer key, it will grade the bulk of it automatically. Things like this work, you might want to give that some sort of score. Scoring, you're going to have to figure out on your own. What's nice, though, is with forms, you can create a new spreadsheet, and it will give you all of the students who did it with all of their answers. And if you have scoring done, where it calculates the scores, it'll put it right here. And then let's say that they got a score of, 110 out of 150, and that's the way it will show up in here. That's the way it will appear. You can just take and do equals 110 divided by 150 enter, and then you can change this to a percent by doing format. Okay, got it. Get out of here. Format, number, percent, boom, 73%. Okay, so we know what their percentage is. So you can have a quiz with 33 questions, with 89 questions, with 1 question, with 10 questions, whatever. It doesn't have to be a multiple of 100. The math is still super simple either way. So yeah, that's about it. That's all I got. I've heard some interesting ideas of how to give assessments online. Frankly, in the situation that we're in, I think this is the best way to do it to make sure that cheating doesn't happen, or at least isn't rampant, and to take away, to minimize the possibility of cheating. It's not perfect, but if you prepare the kids and you prepare the parents for what they're gonna have to do, tell them you've got to use Chrome, you're going to use Forms, so you might want to familiarize yourself with it. You're going to use Meets, you might want to familiarize yourself with it. Set up a Gmail account. If they've got Hotmail or, whatever, AOL.com mail or something like that, tell them set up a Gmail account. It's free, it's easy. If you're dealing with your students in your school, presumably you all already have G Suite, so that's not an issue. If you're using Microsoft, I don't know what to tell you. You're wasting your money. Go to Google. But for students who are outside of your school or whatever, you can have them set up a Gmail account, have them do all this stuff early. And then when you do it this way, it's all kind of seamless. You're using the same, since you're using the Google ecosystem, it's really familiar, it's simple to use, it's simple for students and for teachers, and really for parents too. I think that's about all I got for you. Those are my recommendations. If you got a better way, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Again, it doesn't eliminate cheating, but it would minimize it. And you've got to choose questions that are unique, and you've got to do this. Make it so that in the student's mind, when they're deciding, do I try to cheat, do I not try to cheat? Make it so that cheating is more difficult than just doing the answers correctly. So we do this all the time as teachers anyways. What you got to do is minimize the possibility of cheating and the occurrences of it by making it difficult to do so, and we're doing our best that we can, and make the questions appropriate. Make it about material that they ought to know. Of course, you can also have, strict discipline, a strict discipline procedure policy for cheating for when it does occur. But really, if you don't have to get into that at all, obviously that's better. So that's all I got for you. This one went a little bit long, but yeah, Meets and Forms, and you can do all of your online assessments, and you can do them pretty well. You know your students for the most part, and you know who's going to have issues with that, who's not going to have issues. I don't know. Good luck.